Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program that features the lives of the saints and reflections on the Sunday readings, along with information on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Father Jim Korda. Our program is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. Our interview segment today will feature Dr. Pete Schafer and Monsignor John Zuraw on the pastoral planning process. We will also get a glimpse into the life and times of St. Teresa of Avila, along with reflections on the readings for this 28th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more on Wineskins. To tell us more about Ecumenism in the Diocese of Youngstown is Father Joe Witmer. With me now is Father Joe Witmer. Welcome back to Wineskins.
Thank you, Father Korda.
You know, the last time you were here, we spent some time talking about the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. We also highlighted that special event at St. Columba Cathedral, that ecumenical prayer service that we had. Why is it important for us as Christians to celebrate with other Christians of other faiths? And give us a little historical background as to how we do that here in the diocese.
Well, certainly in the beginnings of the Church, prayer for unity of believers was important. When we share the Eucharist or when we celebrate the Eucharist, we speak about one body, one spirit. And so over the years, different Christians have expressed the relationship between Eucharist and belief in various ways. Catholics and Orthodox tend to emphasize that there should be, if not full communion, Catholics would hold for a little bit less than that in some cases. There needs to already be unity in belief before there's unity in the celebration together of the Eucharist. But the Catholics changed a lot of that with Vatican Council II, and that began many dialogues between Catholics and Lutherans, Catholics and Orthodox, Catholics and Anglicans, and a number of different other ones that still go on as we try to, having begun with things that we were agreed upon, the dialogue has matured to where we could talk about issues that were sort of neuralgic, where we needed to discuss and listen and try to understand the other person's history and belief. And then talk about how much is necessary for complete unity, or is there room for some diversity in expression, in practice. Some would say, for instance, for Catholics, we have a special recognition of saints, the holy people that have gone before. But then again, there's others who find that difficult because of Jesus Christ being the sole mediator, and that's important to them. I remember in one discussion we were having with Southern Baptists. And of course, saints are a little problem. But I learned, as having heard it in one area, in another conversation, I said, now, that may be true, but can you consider Christmas and Easter without mentioning Annie Armstrong, people who were very much involved in the home and the foreign missions, and their Easter and Christmas collections are named after them? They said, well, now that's another issue, isn't it? So recognition of the person's involvement in the Church's ministry and witness.
Let's talk a little bit more specific. We know that we have dialogue with the Lutheran community. We know in a less formal way we do it with the Orthodox community. What about some of those other religions? For example, I'm thinking of Islam. Are there dialogues that are going on here within the Diocese of Youngstown? We know that they are around the country, but what about here in the diocese?
Nothing formal. There have been some events that have taken place that involved people from other world religions here locally. And it was a time for sharing and listening, asking a few questions, and I think growing in knowledge and understanding of those beliefs. And of course, searching for ways in which we could cooperate in our expression of our religions.
You know, in your many years of work with ecumenism and interfaith dialogue, what would you tell very briefly to the folks that are with us about why it's important for us as Christians, but also as Catholics, to be involved and respectful of other faiths?
Well, there's a few of us who are older and remember many things before Vatican II. And we might have even completed our theological studies before Vatican II. to expect those people to become leaders in ecumenical and interreligious dialogue is sometimes a challenge. But as younger people become more familiar, you do have the balance of seeking between trying to spread the faith, one's own faith, in that kind of evangelization, we would call it, and also, though, that ecumenical dimension of our beliefs and of what the future might hold.
Well, for us as Catholic Christians, we know that Jesus' greatest prayer is that we may all be one. So we certainly lift that up. We celebrate that every time we have interfaith and ecumenical dialogue. So thank you for being part of that, for supporting that, but also for promoting that these many years.
Many thanks.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. Saint Teresa of Avila was a virgin and doctor of the Church. To tell us more is Brother Al Milella. He is from the Society of St. Paul in Canfield.
Saint Teresa of Jesus died in the province of Salamanca, Spain, on the historic night in which the Gregorian calendar replaced the Julian calendar. As a result, though she was born on October the 4th, her feast is celebrated on October 15th. She was canonized in 1622 and named a Doctor of the Church in 1970 by Blessed Paul VI. Teresa was born at Avila, Spain in 1515, who was of Jewish descent on her father's side. It was the golden age of Spain because of the vast amount of that precious metal that poured into Spain from Latin America, and also because of the large number of excellent spiritual writings published during that period. As a child, she was very devout and even wished for martyrdom at the hands of the Moors. But during adolescence, her fervor cooled somewhat, and she was for a time a typical vain and sentimental girl. At the age of 20, however, she was greatly moved by reading the letters of St. Jerome, and she decided to become a nun at the Carmelite Monastery of the Incarnation at Avila. Shortly after her entrance, she became seriously ill and had to be sent away for treatment. She returned to the monastery after her cure, but she was practically an invalid for several years. After reading the Confessions of St. Augustine and being deeply impressed by an image of Ecce Homo, Teresa, at the age of 40, resolved to dedicate herself seriously to the practice of prayer. She then began to work for the reform of the Carmel, and she obtained permission to found the convent of St. Joseph of Avila. With the help of St. John of the Cross, the reform was extended also to the friars. Eventually, the Holy See recognized two different branches of the Carmelite order. Writing from her own personal experience, St. Teresa composed three major works on prayer and the mystical life: The Life, her autobiography, The Way of Perfection, and The Interior Castle. During her lifetime, she made more than 40 new foundations of Carmelite nuns of the strict observance. The prayers of the Mass touch on some of the high points of the life of St. Teresa of Jesus. In the opening prayer we read, "Father, by your Spirit, you raised up St. Teresa of Avila to show your Church the way to perfection. May her inspired teaching awaken in us a longing for true holiness." St. Teresa carried out her mission at a time when Spain was entering upon a period of extensive colonialism. A new age was dawning not only for Spain, but for the Carmelite nuns. Rightly did Blessed Paul VI acknowledge her authoritative teaching on prayer and its influence on the Carmelite order, the praying church, and the world at large. In marking the 4th centenary of the death of St. Teresa, Pope St. John Paul II said that it was a powerful summons to the supreme values to which St. Teresa had dedicated her life. The mystical life of St. Teresa of Jesus has its source as love and its expression as a manifestation of love. For Wineskins, I am Brother Aloysius.
Back to our show on Pastoral Planning. With me again is Dr. Peter Schafer, and we welcome back Monsignor John Zuraw.
Thank you.
We'd like to talk briefly, I think, about those regions and then the number of priests. So let's talk about how the committee came up with this whole regionalization process and why it's directing what we're doing now.
Yeah, there's two main advantages to the regional approach as we started the planning process. The first is that we wanted to make sure that every parish was involved with the process and involved with the solutions. The idea of a standalone parish wasn't feasible anymore given the current situation. And so by going to the regional approach, every parish is grouped together with other parishes within their region in order to come up with solutions. And the second main benefit of the regional approach is that the recommended solutions for best ministering to the people of God within that region are coming from the local parishes themselves. We do have quite a diverse diocese in terms of urban areas with churches that are close together, rural areas where parishes are very much spread out and the people are spread out. And so a singular plan that covered all of those differences was not feasible. But by going with the regional approach, we allow local parishes to gather together who know the strengths and the challenges of that region and best come up with solutions and plans to move forward.
And of course, there are 17 regions total. Let's talk about the numbers of priests. And of course, we know that's a projection. Right now, there are currently about 70 active priests, but we know that a number of those active priests are in a different age bracket. Let's talk about that and the projection.
Right, the age bracket for a lot of our priests are a higher age bracket. That there are individuals serving beyond 70, some that are well into their 80s that are still ministering within the Diocese of Youngstown. Under the direction of Pete and the information given to us, we estimated by 2025 that there would be 55 active priests ministering to the Diocese of Youngstown. So the regional plan had to take in that 55.
And I think another point that we want to make sure that we reiterate to the folks that are with us is the number of masses that priests are allowed to say.
Right. And we looked at canon law and it's that number 3. And as we articulated earlier, that everybody wants their particular Mass. If I attended 7:30 for the last 50 years, I'm going to attend 7:30 for the next 50 years. But we have to look at the vibrancy of the liturgical experience. The people coming together to give praise and worship to God as a community with individuals in the pew actively participating will entice others to participate more fully in the Eucharist.
One of the words that both of you used in previous segments was the word collaboration. Why is it important for parishes to collaborate in this time and day?
Part of it is necessity, that we do have fewer resources in terms of people and priests. But I think part of the benefit of the need to do this is that we get to see the greater church. Our faith is not just about our particular parish and what's going on there, but we are part of the body of Christ. We're part of the Universal Catholic Church, and we're part of the Diocese of Youngstown. So as we kind of expand our horizons of what it means to be a disciple, what it means to be a parishioner, what it means to be a part of the church, we can start to use our gifts then not just for our particular parish, but for the area in general.
And one of the things that I also would like to talk a little bit more about is not only is it important for collaboration, but everyone has to be part of it.
Right. We can no longer be standalone. We need to see the wider picture. And, we have large parishes, we have medium-sized parishes, we have small parishes, but we are all part of the Diocese of Youngstown. So if we were only looking at larger parishes that would remain standalone, then they ultimately, in the long run, would suffer also. because they would not get the full experience of what the rest of the diocese is truly experiencing.
And we know that we have been getting information and involvement from the laity throughout this process. Has that been positive, and why is that important?
It's very important to have the voice of the laity involved. Bishop Mary has been very clear from the beginning that he wanted the laity to be consulted. The first step in that really was setting forth the reality of the situation that we were facing. We heard that time and time again from our pastors, that people didn't really understand the reality of the situation because we were still celebrating masses and things. And so just through the information, and then through the Diocesan Pastoral Council, which is the lay consultative body to Bishop Murray, looking at the plan, and then through individual parish councils, looking over things with their pastor and submitting feedback, staff members as well. All these different ways to not only create awareness about the plan and the need for it, but also to hear from the laity and the wisdom of the laity of how they might be involved in the process and contribute to it.
We know that there's going to be a lot of incidentals, or I like to use the word ancillary, but they're really not ancillary. They're very important. We are going to have maybe some closed churches, some unused buildings, some staff members that will no longer be employed. Why do we need to address those issues?
For the dignity and respect of the past, individuals have contributed to building these edifices. Individuals that have dedicated their lives to these parishes. So, we need to be very sensitive to the circumstances that the regionalization will bring forth. But if we are going to be a stronger and a church that is moving forward, this is the time in which we need to thoroughly examine, but more importantly, implement.
What would you like to tell the folks that are with us about the importance of participating in this planning process?
Again, it's very important that everyone participates in terms of being aware of what's going on, reading all the information. We have information on the diocesan website. We're asking our pastors to share the letters that Bishop Murray has been writing in their parish bulletins and on their websites. And the more informed that our people are about what's going on, the more we'll be able to move forward with a plan that works best for everyone.
And please give the diocesan website for people to go into.
Yes, our diocesan website is www.doy.org. And then there is a banner at the top on Pastoral Planning.
One final word about our priests. What would you like to say to the priests who participate in this and are continued support of the process?
By being supportive of the process, we are building a stronger diocesan church, that we do not isolate ourselves from the problem, but we allow the problem to come forth with a solution. And that's probably the most important thing, that solutions such as regionalization will enhance who we are as a church.
Monsignor Zuraw, Dr. Schafer, thank you very much for participating in this, and God's blessing on our diocese as we continue this important process.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
For more information and to listen to Wineskins, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doy.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In a corner of rural New Mexico, children play in a daycare center. Not long ago, their days were very different. While parents worked in the fields, children stayed home alone or sat in a car in the heat of the day. Now they're learning, playing, safe and well-fed because 5 women dreamed of decent daycare and made it a reality. 1 in 6 American children lives in poverty, but we can help them live in hope. Find out how at povertyusa.org, a message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.
By the time we can walk, each of us yearns for the joy that comes from being able to do for ourselves. Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy. Church World Service.
Our song today is from the CD entitled O Merciful Father. It is by the Kellenberg Memorial High School Choir.
Have made. I see the stars.
And now I will share my scripture reflections for this 28th Sunday in Ordinary Time. In today's Gospel, Jesus healed 10 people who were afflicted with leprosy. They shouted at him from a distance. He told them to go and show themselves to the priests. That was a requirement of law. A recovered leper had to be examined by a priest before he could return to society. So acting on faith, they went to the priests. Along the way, they were all healed. But only one of them turned around and went back to say thank you. And Jesus wondered, where are the other 9? I would like to think that they were all genuinely grateful. How could they not be? 1 minute, they are trapped in a living hell. The next, they are free and starting life over. They had to be grateful. But why didn't they all come back to say thank you? These 9 people left a giant question mark on history. We'll never know why, because they didn't say. And yet, some things just need to be said no matter what. Let's face it, we all need to hear words of thanks and praise from time to time. I think that I have a reasonably strong self-image, but once in a while it helps to hear it from someone else. It could be one of those Sundays when nothing seems to go right. Attendance is down, and so is the enthusiasm. The best thing that can be said for the homily is that it's over. After the service, a little child hugs my leg, and that makes my day. I visit an old woman in the nursing home, and she blows me a kiss when I leave. That lifts my spirit. We never outgrow the need for praise and thanks. Some things need to be said because we all need to hear them. We also need to say them. When you teach your child to say thank you, you're not thinking about the people who will hear those words. You are thinking about your child. The need to say them, that's part of being civilized. Your child will never be whole and healthy unless they feel real gratitude. Part of becoming a grateful person is learning and using grateful words. If a child keeps saying thank you, it will shape their soul, and they will always be a grateful person. Some things need to be said, and we all need to say them. The good news is that we can all do that. It doesn't take a silver-tongued orator to say the things that need to be said. We don't know the precise words of the one leper who returned. All we know is that he came back praising God in a loud voice. The point is that we can all say the things that really need to be said, even if we are totally incompetent of public speaking. Right now, I'm recalling a beautiful and powerful speech. In fact, I would call it the greatest speech I have ever heard. You can never guess what it is. Not the Gettysburg Address, though the world will never forget that November day in 1863 when Abraham Lincoln began 77 years ago. And I'm not thinking of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. It was profound and moving. But the greatest speech that I am thinking of can be made by anybody. It is only 3 words long, and those 3 words are, I love you. That is probably the most profound thing that one human being can say to another. When was the last time you said it to your spouse, to your friend, to a child? Have you spoken those 3 words at all this past week? Some things need to be said. Jesus seemed to think so. He wondered out loud, where are the other 9? For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. I love you is perhaps the most profound thing that one human being can ever say. When was the last time we said those words? Some things, as I said, really need to be said. Wineskins is made possible by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Wineskins is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Korda, saying thank you for being with us. Have a blessed Sunday, and may God be with you.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.